Okay, we are live. I want to start today with something that happened yesterday that kind of sparked this whole episode. So I was at our Powerhouse meetup in Paris, which was incredible, by the way. I'm in Paris now. And my boyfriend was there with me, hanging out with a group of actors. And at one point, he turns to the group and he says something like, I don't know how you guys do this, because he had helped me tape 2 self tapes yesterday. And, he was like, you prepare for this, you put yourself out there, you get no feedback. People don't book things very often. And then you're just supposed to do it again in a couple days like nothing ever happened. And that just sounds awful. And he's not wrong. From the outside, that is exactly what auditioning looks like: a cycle of preparation, vulnerability, putting everything out on the table, silence, and then repetition, doing it again. And if that's your experience of it, of course you dread it. But here's what I told him, and I meant it completely, and many of the actors who were there agreed with me. I love auditions. I genuinely love them. And it's not because I'm wired differently or because I book more than anybody else or because I figured out some secret to not being nervous or doing all the things. I love them because I stopped treating auditions like a test that I might fail, and I started treating them like the actual job. Auditions are my job. Clip that. And a lot more can come out of any single audition than a booking for that particular role. That's the other thing. Relationships get built through self-tapes even. Of course, audition rooms, but also, casting directors will remember you for the next project, even if you weren't right for that one. Your agent gets information about how you're being received. You get data about your own positioning. Every audition is a professional interaction with someone who has the ability to impact your career. And if you treat it that way, the entire experience changes. We may not know how it's going to impact our careers if we don't book the job, but it does. And so today I'm going to give you the system. I'm going to give you the full audition ritual that I teach inside my community, the Table. It includes 3 phases, from the moment an audition hits your inbox to what you do after you walk out of the room or after you submit the self-tape. And by the end of this, you're going to have a repeatable process that takes the chaos out of auditioning and the dread out of auditioning and actually lets you enjoy it. This is episode 17 of Powerhouse Conversations, the audition ritual: how to stop dreading self-tapes and start treating auditions like the job. Let's get into it. So before I give you the system, I want to name what's actually happening when you dread an audition. Because I think most actors blame themselves for the dread. They think, oh, well, I'm not confident enough, or I'm not prepared enough, or I'm not thick-skinned enough. Like, that's what I need to work on. And that's almost never what's actually going on. There are 3 real reasons that actors kind of hate auditions, and all 3 are fixable, all right? The first reason is that they don't have a process. When an audition comes in, there's no system for how to receive it, how to prepare for it, how to execute it, and how to follow up. So every single audition feels like you're reinventing the wheel. You're making decisions in real time about logistics. Where am I going to do this? About preparation, about, who's going to tape you? What am I going to wear? How much time am I going to spend on this? And all of that decision making creates friction and stress before you've even started working on the scene. The second reason is time pressure. And this is especially true with self-tapes. The turnaround times can be really short, or maybe you don't have a lot of time to work on it before the audition is due. So you get a request at 10 a.m., it's due 48 hours later, sure, but you're completely booked up until 10 hours before that thing is due or something, right? If your calendar is packed, which it probably is because you're a human being with a full life, that self-tape immediately becomes a source of stress instead of a source of excitement. Not because the audition itself is stressful, but because you didn't really leave room for it. The third reason, and this is the deeper one, is that we are treating auditions like pass fail events. Right? You either book it or you do not. And that is a huge problem. Um, as I mentioned in the intro, when every audition carries that weight, of course we're going to dread them. Who would ever look forward to a test that they're probably, odds are they're going to fail? No one. Clip that. The audition ritual addresses all three of these things. It gives you a process so you're not reinventing the wheel every time. It builds in time and space so that auditions aren't always like something that you're scrambling to finish. And it reframes the entire experience from a test that you might fail or probably will fail into a professional interaction that serves your career regardless of whether you book it or not. And then it's like, oh, I booked this. Amazing. That's great. But it doesn't feel like a total failure if you don't book it, because that's not true. So before we get into the three phases, I want to talk about something that most actors have never considered. And this is something we talk a lot about in the table. Do you have auditions scheduled in your calendar? Now, I know you're probably like, Asia Ray, I can't schedule them. I don't know when I'm going to have an audition. Of course, we don't know when auditions are going to come in. But we do know as actors that we want them to come in. That's the whole point of everything we're doing. Get more opportunities to audition. So why do we build a schedule that has no room for them? Just because we don't know when? Right? So what I teach is something called the audition buffer. It's super simple. You block 60 to 90 minutes of unscheduled time in your calendar on the days that you're available to audition. I would love for you to get up to 5 days a week for this, but if your schedule is super packed right now, start at 2. A couple days a week. I want you to leave 60 to 90 minutes of unscheduled time in your calendar. And you don't schedule anything else in that window. It's protected space for you. So when an audition comes in during that window, great. It fits. You do it with ease, without scrambling, without rearranging your entire day. Now, that almost never happens, right? An audition is going to come in outside that window. And if it does, you can shift whatever was in the buffer slot to accommodate the audition, and everything still works. Now, the beauty of self-tapes is that you have a little more flexibility usually about when you film those. And so you can do it during your audition buffer. Great. The difference between receiving an audition when you have buffer time and receiving an audition when your day is completely packed is night and day, okay? One feels like an opportunity, the other feels like an inconvenience at best and a crisis at worst. Clip that. And there's something else happening when you create this buffer. You are sending a signal to yourself and honestly to the universe, if you believe in that sort of thing, that you are making space for these opportunities, that you expect them, that you're ready for them. Instead of a calendar that says, I have no room for auditions, your calendar says, I've been waiting for this. Thank you. So, if 90 minutes sounds impossible right now, start with 30, even 15, right? Or do it just for a couple days a week and build that habit first and expand it later. But stop building a schedule that treats auditions or self-tapes like they're an interruption to your day. They are your day. Everything else is what you do between them. I guarantee you, if you start doing this, things will shift for you in terms of the number of audition opportunities that you do get. I have a member of the table, her name is Heather, who was really lamenting the fact that she was doing all of this work, creating relationships, really doing a lot of the work that I teach. And she still felt like she wasn't seeing results in terms of the numbers of auditions that she was getting. And we talked through this. And what was really happening is that she had no space. And so my only homework to her was, all right, you're going to go and you're going to create this audition ritual, this audition buffer, excuse me, that we've been talking about. You've got to clear space. She did it. She implemented it. Literally within 2 weeks, she was receiving more auditions, and she ended up booking her first television co-star on This Is Us not shortly after that. Like, I'm telling you, this stuff works. It is not magic. It is making space for what you say you want. All right, so let's get into the audition ritual. These are the 3 phases of the audition ritual, okay? Your audition ritual has these 3 components to it. Phase 1 is preparation. Phase 2 is presence, the moment right before and while you're actually filming the self-tape or actually in the audition room, in the virtual room, if that's what's happening. Phase 3 is what I call the culmination, which is everything that you do after the audition is done or you submitted the self-tape, okay? Most actors only think about phase 1 and then they rush through phase 2 and they skip phase 3 entirely. So just know that all 3 of these matter, and phase 3 might matter the most, actually. So let's talk about phase 1, preparation. Preparation breaks down into 2 categories. We have the administrative prep and we have the artistic prep. Both of them need to happen and the order matters, okay? I want you to do the administrative prep first because if the logistics aren't handled, then the artistic prep suffers. You can't be creatively present when you are panicking about parking if you're doing an in-person audition, or, wondering if you have everything you need, or wondering who's going to film you, or where you're going to do it, and is it going to be quiet, and blah, 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 right? So here's the administrative checklist. You're going to schedule the audition. If it's in person, you're going to map out where it is, how you're going to get there, what time you need to leave to arrive a few minutes early, look up the people involved in the project, whether it's in person or a self-tape. Do you know anyone connected to it? A director, a producer, a writer? If you do, give them a heads up. This is your relationship building work in action, right? Prepare any materials that you have been given. If you have a script, I received a script for the audition that I just filmed today, actually. Read the script, right? If it's a self-tape, schedule your reader, confirm your taping setup, read the audition notes and slate requirements carefully before you start preparing, right? Make sure you have all that. I cannot tell you how many actors have prepared, filmed an entire self-tape, gone to upload it, and then realized the slate instructions were different from what they did, and so they don't have what they need to upload. So read those requirements first, always. Now, artistic prep. Craft work is not what I work on with you. This is not my job. This is where your training comes in. Everyone's process is going to look different based on your background. Whatever method you use to break down a scene, you use here. Whatever technique you have for learning lines, you use here. Hopefully it's the same thing. You prepare your wardrobe, your hair and makeup based on the character, all that stuff, right? One thing I want to flag here, a lot of actors, especially with self-tapes, they will skip the real preparation because they think they can just do a bunch of takes and eventually one's going to be good. That approach is exhausting for you, is exhausting for your reader, and it doesn't produce your best work. I'm just going to say that. It does not. So what you want to do is prepare like you're actually walking into a casting office or walking into a Zoom audition. Do a few takes, pick the best one, move on. That's how it works in the room. That's how it works at home. That's what you're going to have to do if you're on set. So the last step of preparation is something I learned from a coach that I studied with, and I really love it. She says that you need to test your game. So even if you're going into an in-person audition or a Zoom audition, she advises that you tape the audition as a rehearsal run before you go in or before you start. Watch it back from the perspective of an observer, make adjustments to it, and that gives you the chance to see what's actually coming across versus what you think is coming across, which is can be a huge gap for us if we're in auditions where we haven't seen it, right? That's the kind of advantage of a self-tape, is that we get to actually watch it and be like, oh, that looks different than I thought, right? So do that whether you're in person or virtual or doing a self-tape. So that's phase one, preparation. Phase two is presence. This is shorter, but just as important. This is the transition from preparation to performance, right? So before you walk into the room or you hit record to start your self-tape, you need a moment to arrive. Not just physically, but energetically. You need to shift from logistics mode into creative mode. What it looks like is going to be personal for you. So for me, if I'm going to do an in-person audition, I might just sit in my car for a few minutes, which is why I like to arrive early and do a short meditation. I have our self-tape success meditation actually available as a free resource for you. So I'll drop that into the notes on YouTube. Sometimes I use a breathing technique. I have a kind of an invocation that I say that really puts me into a creative space, right? The point is to create a threshold between the scramble of getting ready and getting there and getting ready to film, and the act of being really present for what you're about to do and the transmission that you're about to make. For self-tapes, this matters just as much. Don't go straight from answering emails and making lunch or yelling at your kids into rolling on your audition. Give yourself even 5 minutes of a transition. Put your phone away or whatever, if you're using it to film, right? Put it on do not disturb. Do some deep breathing, get into your body, get present. Remind yourself that this is the part of the job that you actually love. This is where you actually get to act. This is the playing part. Everything else was preparation for this moment. And when you're in the room or in the Zoom room or in front of the camera, your only job is to be there, to listen, to respond, to collaborate, not to perform or impress, to be a human being telling the truth under imaginary circumstances. You've done the prep, so trust it and be there. Now, phase three is the culmination phase. This is the phase that a lot of us will just totally skip. And this is the one that turns a single audition into a long-term career builder. After every audition, whether you feel like it went well or not, you have a series of actions to take. And I want to walk through each one because they really do compound over time. First, you're going to log the audition. We have an audition tracker in our community. You write down the project, the role, what you wore, right? Especially for commercials, sometimes you want to have the same look on the callback. Who was in the room, how it went, how you got the audition, any important notes about the people you interacted with if you did. That tracker becomes an incredibly valuable document over time. 6 months from now, you can look back and see patterns. Which casting directors have you been in front of? How many, what's your kind of like audition frequency? How many auditions are you doing per week, per month? What kinds of roles are you consistently being called in for? How did you get your strongest auditions? Were they through your rep? Were they through relationships? All of that is data, and that data is how you stop guessing about your career. Clip that. Second, update your reps if it's appropriate, right? When I first started working with my last manager, we'd check in after every audition just very briefly. I'd let her know how it went, if there was anything worth noting. We didn't do that once we had a more long-standing relationship, but I have a new rep again, and so it might be a good idea for me to do that, right? Early on, that communication can build trust and show them that you're actively thinking about your auditions. Third, and this is one that I feel very strongly about, send a thank you. I don't consider my audition finished until I've expressed some form of gratitude to the creative team. It might be a thank you note. Sometimes I'll mail a thank you if I have an address. It might be a brief email. It might be a quick message on socials. Something super specific about the experience that you appreciated. Um, you know, um, I told a story a few episodes ago, actually, in this series about a casting director who remembered a thank you card that I sent her a couple years later. I was kind of shocked. Like, I had kind of forgotten about it. That's how rare it can be when you actually express this gratitude in this way, and it really stands out. Fourth, you're going to add the relevant people to your target list or to your newsletter if you have one. If this is a project or a team that you'd love to work with, again, those names go on your list. We're talking about the casting director, sure, but also the director, the producer. Now they are part of your circle of influence. The audition opened the door, and your follow up work is going to keep that door open. And fifth, this is the one that's most important for your own growth. Do a brief, honest assessment, right? Not a judgment, but an assessment of what worked in this audition. What would you adjust next time? Was there a moment that you felt fully alive in the scene? Was there a moment that you pulled back? You're not grading yourself, but you're kind of gathering information and making sure that you are set up for the next opportunity to be even better. When you do all 5 of these after every audition, something shifts. The audition stops being this one-off event that either goes well or it doesn't, or either becomes a booking or it doesn't. It becomes a data point and part of a larger system. And it's a relationship building opportunity, and it's a chance to practice your craft at the professional level on real material. Every single one, regardless of whether you book it, is doing something for your career. And we have to start seeing them that way. So that's why I love auditions now. Not everyone goes perfectly. I certainly don't book everyone, but everyone serves me. And this system makes that possible. Clip that. So I want to go back to something that my boyfriend said here at our meetup yesterday in Paris, because I think he accidentally named the exact thing that most of us need to hear. He said, you prepare, you put yourself out there, you get no feedback, and you're supposed to do it again in a couple days. And his conclusion was, that sounds awful. But here's what I realized in that moment hearing him say that. He was describing auditioning as something that happens to you, as something that you just deal with, something that you endure, something that you survive and then you gradually recover from. And the shift that I made years ago, the shift that really changed everything for me, was deciding that auditions don't happen to me. They're something that I do. They are my job. They're not the thing that I'm trying to survive long enough to get to the job. They are the actual job itself. Think about any other profession. A surgeon doesn't dread performing surgery. A lawyer doesn't dread going to court. A chef doesn't dread service. These are the moments where their training becomes applicable. It becomes real. These are the moments that they've been preparing for. And auditions are our version of that. We tend to think that the booking is our version of that, but it's not. Auditions are. Every self-tape, every in-person read, every callback is a moment where you get to do the thing that you trained to do in front of people who are in a position to hire you. That's not a burden, that's a privilege. And when you have a system that supports you, when your logistics are handled and the preparation is solid and the follow-up is built in, you actually get to experience it that way. The number one complaint that we as actors have is that we don't get enough auditions. We don't get enough opportunities. So when they come in, why should we treat them with this dread? The ritual is what allows you to greet them with readiness and excitement instead. So I hope that makes sense. Good morning, Ambrose. Good to see you all. Okay. So, everything I just walked you through, you can start building this week. Starting out, the buffer, the audition buffer, the 3 phases, the tracker, all of it. You have the framework now. And inside the table, we go deeper with all of this. You build your personal audition ritual with coaching and feedback. You get accountability to actually implement it. And you have a community of actors who are refining their own rituals alongside you. They're sharing what's working, what they're adjusting, how it's changing their relationship to auditions over time. So if you want the system and the support to make it stick, that's what the table is for. And that's linked in the description on YouTube. So I want to open it up because I know that many of you are here watching the live stream, but many of you are going to watch this replay. And I just want to invite you to share questions. I always come back to answer them. The best questions are practical ones, right? My self-tape turnaround is short. I don't know how to prepare well in that time. I don't have a reliable reader. What do I do? Those are the conversations that everyone wants to watch. So let me know what's on your mind. And here's your assignment this week. You are going to build your audition ritual. Use the 3 phases that I walked through today. Write down what your administrative prep looks like, what your artistic prep looks like, what your practice to have presence is going to be, and what your 5 culmination steps are going to be after every audition. Then put that audition buffer in your calendar. Do it. Whatever you can manage, even if it's 30 minutes a day to start. And the next time an audition comes in, run the ritual, all 3 phases, and see how it feels compared to your usual approach. Because the actors who love auditioning are not the ones who never get nervous. They're the ones who have a system that holds them. They know exactly what to do at every stage of the process, so their energy goes into the creative work instead of into logistics and stress. Auditioning is the job. Build a system worthy of it. Clip that.